Uncle Fester's Quest is well known for being one of the most difficult games on the NES. Even the TV commercial says that it's tough.
But if you make just one mistake, you start all over again. Fester's Quest, the video game from Sunsoft for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Are you good enough?
Despite its reputation, it's not as challenging as most people think. This game isn't even close to as difficult as Ghosts and Goblins or Battletoads. Fester's Quest was developed by Sunsoft, a company that made some of the best NES games that were based on licensed properties. They'd go on to make awesome games based on the Batman and Gremlins franchises, but Fester's Quest was their very first licensed game. The story is that some of the members of the development team wanted to make an Addams Family game, and the license wasn't very expensive. In modern times, the Addams Family is a well-recognized brand, with new animated movies for kids, and even a new series coming to Netflix from Tim Burton. But in the late 80s, the franchise had been dormant for years. The Addams Family started as a cartoon series by artist Charles Addams all the way back in 1938. But it didn't really hit the mainstream until it was famously turned into a sitcom for ABC in 1964. But that series only ran until 1966, and other than a 1977 TV special and an episode of Scooby-Doo, the Addams Family had done almost nothing for over 20 years. The franchise didn't really take off until the movie came out in 1991. I'm not sure why Sunsoft needed the Addams Family license to make this game work. It only has a loose plot where aliens abduct family patriarch Gomez, and his brother Fester has to rescue him. The other family members will give Fester new items as he meets them along the way. The gameplay mostly takes place from a top-down perspective, similar to Legend of Zelda. It actually feels like a lot of the design is borrowed from Blaster Master, one of Sunsoft's greatest releases. They even shrunk down some of Blaster Master's bosses and used them as regular enemies. Occasionally, the game does switch to a first-person 3D maze. I thought I would hate these areas, but they're actually not so bad, and are an interesting way to add variety to the game. When Fester's Quest released in North America in 1989, it actually sold pretty well for Sunsoft, even with some of the ugliest box art of all time. It's hard to say how much the Addams Family license helped sell the game, but it certainly helped it stand out on store shelves. The success of Fester's Quest led Sunsoft to pursue many other licensing deals. Many of these games were great, but they got stuck making a lot of Looney Tunes games in the 16-bit era, for better or for worse. In modern times, it seems like a lot of people don't like Fester's Quest. I don't disagree that the game is flawed. Your character does move pretty slowly, and it is annoying that the gun gets stuck on walls, an error that Sunsoft corrected for the European release. But other than these two issues, this game features fun weapons and upgrades, and some pulse-pumping boss battles. It's totally worth a playthrough. Some modern critics agree. When IGN created their list of the top 100 NES games of all time, they ranked Fester's Quest at number 45. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges the NES is notorious for. If you die, you will go all the way back to the beginning, even if you choose to continue. You do not get a lot of health, and it may only take 2 small hits to give you a game over. But what if I told you where to find every weapon and upgrade so you will always be strong enough for the next encounter? What if I showed you the easy path through every maze? And what if I showed you how to defeat every boss, with or without using glitches, even the alien leader himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss any new episodes. Let's get started. Alright, Uncle Fester's Quest. That old TV commercial talks a big game about how difficult this one is, but it's surprisingly easy if you know what to do. The first thing we need to do is shoot these alien spore pods so that we can get some power-ups. We want that blue gun power-up like the one we just found. That will level our gun up and it will make it shoot farther and have more power. But we also want the money, which are the dollar signs, the green keys, and the light bulbs. All that stuff is important. We do not want any pink gun power-ups. The pink gun power-up is a debuff. It will actually reduce the level of our gun, so you want to avoid those like the plague. Definitely get the keys though. The keys are very important. We're going to need them to open up buildings, and we're going to see some buildings when we come up through this path. So make your way up this way. You're going to want to have 2 keys to be able to get both items over here. And there's a hot dog stand that will walk by. If you've taken damage, you can select your money from the menu. And then if you press the A button near the hot dog stand, it'll charge you $5, but it will refill your health completely. Now, when we use a key over here, Pugsly will give us TNT, which is an optional item. You can see what it does. You drop it, and if it blows up near an enemy, it will deal them a lot of damage. It's not super useful though, so feel free to skip the TNT if you don't want it, or if you don't have enough keys at this point. But make sure to go over here and visit this house, where Wednesday will give you vice grips. You may have noticed that Fester walks very slowly. Well, there are some enemies that can actually make him walk slower. The vice grips will fix that though. Once we go down these stairs, we'll enter the sewer. These narrow maze-like passageways will connect many of the overworld locations, and that's how we're going to be getting around in the game. If you enter this room, we'll usually be able to find some of these green puddle enemies. You may have to walk deeper into the room to find one. The enemies are a little bit random in this game, but you'll notice that when you shoot them with your gun, they split into more enemies, and you can get a lot of power-ups this way. We definitely need to get keys, we need to get light bulbs so that we can see in the sewers, we want money so that you can heal at the hot dog stations, but most importantly, we need to power our gun up to the highest level, which is level 8. Most of the lower level guns have a wide shot pattern, and that is just not going to cut it in these narrow spaces that we're going to have to traverse regularly in the sewer. And we're also going to want the most powerful weapon whenever we're fighting the bosses, so the maximum level of the gun is essentially mandatory. Sure, you can beat the game with a lower level gun, but it's going to be a big hassle. Just take the time to shoot as many of these green puddles as you can, and keep working until you've powered the gun up to the max. This might take a few minutes, but I have good news for you. Even if you die and you have to continue, you'll still have the same level of gun whenever you come back to life. The only way that you can actually lose levels of gun is to find the pink gun power-ups. As you continue to do this, you may notice that there's power-ups for a whip. There's blue ones and pink ones, just like for the gun, but right now we don't have the whip, and you can't affect its levels until you collect it, so it doesn't matter if you pick up the pink ones, and it doesn't matter if you pick up the blue ones either. They won't do anything right now. If it seems like you've run out of the green puddle enemies, there should be more if we continue along the path below us, but it's more effective to fight them in this area because you have this wide open space to work with whenever you have a lesser gun. Alright, we're one level away from the highest level of gun. This is the level 7 gun, which is decent, but it has some holes in the middle of the pattern, and it can actually go around enemies sometimes, which is pretty annoying. See, sometimes you're not hitting it at all. The really annoying part about the level 7 gun is that one of the holes in the pattern is very close to Fester, So sometimes when you're trying to shoot an enemy at close range, your shots will just go right around that enemy and then you end up taking hits. And in this game, you only have 2 hits, at least right now. We will be able to get up to 4 hits later on in the game, but none of the enemies deal half damage. They always deal a full bar, so you only get 2 hits before it's game over. So we certainly need to be careful at this point. Down here we can fight more of those green puddles. We definitely need the highest level of the gun, so we need to farm these enemies until we get it. Don't worry about picking up the whip power-ups if they're in the way, then just pick them up. And there it is. This is the level 8 gun. It is very powerful, and it's actually decent in these tight spaces. Once you have a fully powered up weapon, it's time to make our way back to the surface. And as we go along the bottom here, you want to skip the first path that's leading up and take the second path that's leading up. Watch out for these frog enemies. Even with the highest level of the gun, they can be pretty dangerous, and some of them, the pink ones, can actually spit fireballs at you, which won't damage you, but they'll slow you down and you'll have to use your vice grips. You need to move forward though as you're fighting these guys, or they will spawn continuously forever, so make sure to cover some ground whenever you have some time. And work your way to the top, and then go across this bridge. It's possible that you may have to fight some different enemies. The enemies are somewhat randomized in this game, but it's likely that you're going to have to fight those frogs at some point. Head on up around this bridge. It's way easier to fire your gun up here over the water. We just have a lot of wide open space to work with, which is nice. This is not common though. Most of the time it's going to be those narrow corridors. So head around this path and make your way to the left. We need to get to the ladder in the green area above us. There's some more of those green puddle enemies. We could probably just go around them, but it would be nice to get a few more keys. Make your way all the way to the left and then go up into this green pipe. Make sure that you're positioned in the middle of the pipe, or the walls on the side may stop you from shooting and you'll get hit by those rats. You need to press A when you get to the ladder to ascend, and you'll come up here on the other side of the crack in the road, and this is where we're going to find our first building. Normally the buildings would have a boss inside, and whenever you defeat the boss you would get one of the clue items, and we need all the clues to be able to get into the UFO at the end. But they're all on the path anyway, so it's not like you can miss any of them. Clear out these miniaturized versions of Fred. One of them dropped a key, and that's what we're going to need to enter the building up here. So we need to pause the game and select key, and then press the A button. And what we do in the building is take the first left, and then take the first left again, then work your way into the dead end, and then push forward, and you'll actually get an additional unit of health. Pretty awesome. There's only one other extra unit of health in the entire game, so make sure not to miss this one. Annoyingly, they don't give you a full bar of health, they give you an empty one, but we're going to take care of that soon. Make your way down here and curve up into this path. Down here we're going to find a house, and we're going to get one of the most important items in the game, the potions. And the potions will restore our health. So this is certainly worth a key. Head up here, thing gives you potions. And I'll show you what a potion does. If you select it and press A, it gives you full health. Now you can actually use another key here if you needed the health refill, and you can collect the potions again, which will max you out. Whenever you collect items in this game, you always get the maximum amount, and whenever you defeat a boss in this game, it will actually max out any items that you've found in houses. So make sure to use the potions anytime that you're low on health. You'd much rather use a potion than die, although you'd certainly rather go to a hot dog stand when possible. Speaking of hot dog stands, there's one over here on the right side, and this miniature solar Fred hit us with the fireball, and that doesn't deal you damage, but it makes you slow, so we need to use the vice grips to clear that out. We can use money at the hot dog stand to refill our health. And there is one more item in this area that we want to collect before we move forward. If you thought the potions that refill your health were good, this item might even be better. We're going to head up here to the right of that building where we found the extra unit of health, and just make your way through the trees. Head on up here and then curve over to the left and continue up on the top path. We're going to go down at that fork eventually, but we want to hit this house first. You need to use a key here, and Thing will give you the invisible potions. Invisible is a bit of a misnomer. They're actually invincible potions, and they will make you invincible for a short time, which is an extremely useful item. Once you have both types of potions, you want to head down these stairs. Use a light bulb so that we can see. Make sure you're in the middle of the lane so you can actually use your gun. The faster you can mash the B button, the faster the shots will come out of the gun, and you can actually shoot them very quickly if you reposition your hands and just try to hammer on the button. So we can see how fast we can actually shoot the gun. You don't need to be able to mash very quickly to be able to beat the game, but that will help you out. Now, if you're not opposed to using a turbo controller will make the level 8 gun shoot what looks like a steady stream of bullets that doesn't stop at all. So that is very powerful, and if you're not opposed to using it, that can make the game a lot easier. So I recommend using the NES Advantage controller if you have that. And you can just go to town on some of these enemies with the turbo shots from your gun. Make your way around these curves. The sewers may seem like some intimidating mazes, but they're actually very straightforward. There isn't anywhere you can go in here that would be the wrong path. I mean, you could go around in a circle there, but it's not like you're not going to figure it out. Some of these enemies are tricky though. These circle monsters that have mouths on them will come through the wall, and they are some of the most dangerous enemies in the game. You want to try to shoot them at a distance, but they will chase you and are very persistent. Head around the corner. Remember that the frogs are the easiest to defeat when you attack them from the side. So clear out as many of these as you can and move forward. Yeah, sorry about that, Jason. Fred has to go. So just make your way across this room, and we're going to find a path that heads downward at the very end. And that's where we need to go, so just follow it around. Take this path downward, and that's going to lead to the stairway that will get us out of here. You'll notice that all the sewers are connected, so you may actually see some that we've been in already. On the right, you can see the green pipe from the previous tunnel. Up here is our next building maze. This one is McWimpy's lair. We'll need a key to get in, and then all we need to do here is go all the way to the end of the hall and go left around the curve, then go around the next bend. You'll come to an intersection, you just make a right there, and that will take you to the boss. You're invincible when you first get into the rooms, so you want to take that opportunity to get in as many cheap shots as you can. When the boss does an attack with both arms, and then he'll do an attack with the one on the left side, that's when your invincibility will wear off and you'll need to get out of the way or take damage. The boss's name is McWimpy, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get McWrecked. He always does a very predictable pattern. He'll move around a bit and he'll try to stop right in front of you, and he'll attack left, right, both arms. He does that every single time. The way to counter this is whenever he stops moving, you want to move a bit to the right so that you get out of the way of that left arm attack. And then you want to move over so that you're right next to the left arm that attacked, turn forward and start shooting the boss. The other 3 attacks, the 2 on the right side and the both arm attacks, will miss you when you're center on the boss, and you'll get in a ton of hits. Then you just need to move out of the way of the next left arm attack, and repeat until he's destroyed. Of course, there is another way to beat this guy. Remember those invisibility potions that we got? Well, if you haven't used them all up, you can select them, press the A button to become invincible, and just start shooting at McWimpy until he dies. Your invincibility may wear off and you'll have to press A again to use another invisibility potion, but whenever you defeat a boss in this game, you get all your potions back. You also get back your TNT, anything that you found in a house. So they are a super broken item and are an easy way to defeat any of the bosses in this game. But then there's this way too. If you use a key, walk to that spot and press the A button, you'll trigger a glitch which kills the boss immediately. So for the cost of one key, you can also defeat pretty much any boss in the game. You'll need to get onto the right spot and just press the A button. It's that simple. So that's 3 ways to defeat the first boss. And once he's beaten, you'll need to go back into the sewers again. If you use that key trick on every boss, it is going to affect your key supply, and you're just going to need more of them. So I recommend you fight these green puddle enemies whenever you have an opportunity, and try to replenish some of those keys. But make sure to avoid getting the pink gun power-ups. This game has to be a nightmare for colorblind people. There's a pink one right there, but what if it wasn't super obvious what color that was? Pretty annoying. I'm not even sure why they had to include an item in this game to make your gun worse. Possibly because you would want your gun to be worse sometimes, because some of the mid-level guns don't work so well in the tight spaces, and maybe the level 2 gun would be more effective in here than the level 4 one. I don't know. It just seems like an annoying trap to have in the game, and is pretty much unnecessary. These enemies are very dangerous. We don't have the whip yet. The whip is the most effective way to fight those guys. So you're going to need to mash very quickly on the gun to clear them whenever they're in your way. Make sure to keep moving forward though. Those things just want to spawn forever. And luckily we don't need to go up into that dead end, or we would need to wait for that gun power up to clear. Over here is the stairs, and that will take us back to the overworld. We got hit. Of course we got hit coming out of there. Up here in the overworld, the path is going to take us down, and the way we need to go is going to be over on the right side. But if we want to replenish our health at a hot dog stand, we're going to need to go all the way down to the bottom. So we want to head over to the right here if we have full health. But otherwise, we're going to travel all the way to the bottom. That's where we're going to find that hot dog stand. You can see where the stairs are over there. That's where we're going to go to later. But we'll just head down the street, shooting any enemies that we see, and I guess it's okay that we got hit since we're going to be using the hot dog stand anyway. Try to stay away from those frogs. These insect aliens are very annoying. They jump whenever you shoot, making them very hard to hit. Here's that hot dog stand. So select the money, and then press the A button in front of the stand, and it will refill your health entirely. Once you have a full bar, and you are going to want it moving forward here, head on up and hang out on the right side so that you don't miss the path that you need to take. Just keep traveling up here across the bridge. A lot of frogs out here today. At least there's not too many of these jumping alien bugs. Those are the worst. Try to shoot them as fast as I can. And make your way up. And head over on this path to the right. And it looks like there's a gun debuff in our way. So we're just going to wait until that disappears. Don't take any chances. We might be able to walk around it, but if you hit it and you lose a level of gun, that's just going to waste time. We're going to have to kill enemies until we get that level of gun back. I've definitely been attacked by those spherical mouth monsters coming down that hallway there, and they are super annoying in that area. Down here in the stairs, we can use a light bulb to turn on the lights. And we're going to curve around and back up. Once again, there's no dead ends in here, so This is less of a maze and more of just a path that we need to follow. You want to be careful that you're staying in the middle of the path though. Here's a slug monster, which when it dies will release some of those green puddle enemies. I don't encounter that slug monster very often. He seems to be pretty rare. Make your way around and there's those pink mouth guys again. At least one of them dropped a key, that's good news. Head up and around, and we're just following the path. The passageways are narrow here, but they don't branch off into any other ways to go, so there's no dead ends. Walk to the end of this pier. If you don't have any keys, make sure to farm some from enemies, because in this house, Morticia gives you the whip. The whip is an additional weapon that we can select from the item screen. Now we're going to need to use a bulb here to turn on the lights, so we'll do that, but we'll take a look at the whip and see what it does. It's not very impressive at first, but we need to power it up like we did with the gun. We still have a bit of ground to cover before we have to fight the next boss, so we want to be on the lookout for those green puddle monsters, which we can fight until we get enough power-ups to get the whip up to level 4. Over here we'll find the end of this sewer section, so just go up the stairs and make your way down this short passage. At the end, as you may expect, is another stairway that will take us back down into the underworld. So head on down the stairs, use a light bulb, and this is another straightforward section. But it looks like we found those green puddle enemies, so we need to get the blue whip power-ups. There's one right there. It's on top of a pink gun power-up, which was kind of annoying, but now you can see what the level 2 whip looks like, and you can also see that you can use it to grab items, which seems kind of awesome, but it's actually a downside to the whip. You may accidentally whip an item that decreases your gun or whip power if you're just kind of randomly whipping at enemies. So it means that you need to be very careful when you're using the whip, that you don't whip something that you don't want to grab. Over here we got another key, so that's nice. And we're still looking for the blue whip power-ups. So just shoot at these guys. There's another one. Excellent. We'll only need to get one more. You can see what the level 3 whip looks like. It's starting to get more powerful. You don't want to use the whip against these green puddle enemies. Well, it's very effective against them, but it's too effective. If you use the whip, they won't split into more puddles, and then we won't get more items. But later on in the game, if you don't need to get more items, you probably will want to use the whip whenever you fight those guys. The other big advantage to the whip is that it can go through walls. So not only is it more powerful than the gun whenever we get it up to level 4, it doesn't have the same amount of range, but it's very useful in these close quarters, and it never gets stopped by the wall. So that's why we want to power up the whip. Also, we're going to use it for some of the bosses. We don't actually really need any more keys. We just need to get that whip power up. And there it is, that's the last one. And the level 4 whip looks like the flame whip from Castlevania 2, and is by far the most powerful standard weapon in the game. This is way stronger than our gun, although it doesn't have the range, so the gun still has some uses. The gun is also more effective against those floating head enemies that explode into the flies, that guy down there. That one exploded into like larva, but yeah, those flies are a lot easier to clear with the gun than the whip. Make your way around the path. The other downside to the whip is that sometimes it's a little bit harder to aim it, and it seems like you're whipping an enemy and you don't actually get them. And we've made it to the third building. This one is Zybar's lair. This is another easy maze. If you just avoid all of the branching paths and follow the main hallway, you'll quickly get to the boss. Zybar thinks he's a whip master, but he doesn't know how much Castlevania we've played, and he may actually be easier than the first boss to defeat. We need to use our level 4 whip here, and this guy always attacks left arm, then right arm, then left arm, then right arm. He just alternates. So you just want to walk away from the last arm that he attacked with. Whenever he stops, turn and hit him with the whip, and then start walking in the other direction. And that's all you need to do. Just keep that pattern going, walk away from the last arm he attacked with. When he stops, turn and whip him, then start walking in the other direction. He will get a little bit faster at the end, but as long as you keep the pattern up, you should be safe. Just make sure to use a potion if you get down to 1 health. Now, of course, you could use a key, and if you walk right onto this spot down here, thing will give you invisible potions. Now, you just want to be mashing the A button the whole time while you're trying to find the spot. And that's another way that you can defeat this boss. Why does he have a Triceratops head? I don't know. These are some weird aliens. But once he's defeated, go down the stairs and use a light bulb to turn the lights on. There's actually a branching path here. Stay on the lower path. Not that you wouldn't have been able to figure that out very quickly. And there's the stairs. Head on up, and we'll come across another house with a very important upgrade. Make sure to have a key for this one. Thing gives you missiles. Thanks, Thing. That guy is everywhere. The missiles are one of our most powerful sub-weapons, and they're going to be crucial for some of the bosses ahead. We won't need them for the very next boss though, so feel free to try them out on some of the regular enemies around here. The way that it works is if you press the A button, you'll get a targeting reticle. If you press it again, you'll select a different enemy instead. Then you need to press the B button to launch the missiles. It'll launch a volley of missiles for each one that you use, but the most important thing about the missiles is that they can hit enemies from very far away. There's a hot dog stand here if you need it. Looks like I need to use some vice grips. And once you're all set, head on down the stairs and of course use a bulb to turn on the lights. Down here we have another straightforward tunnel. There are no branching paths, so just follow it forward and find the stairs at the end. Who designed the sewage system in this place? It doesn't seem to have a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Once you come out on the other side, we can enter building number 4, which is Mr. Thunderblade's lair. This one's easy. Just go all the way to the end of the hall, and then follow the hallway to the end. It's that simple. Mr. Thunderblade looks like some kind of reject from the He-Man universe, and his shield seems fairly effective at stopping your attacks, but if you attack him right in the middle of his body with your flame whip, you can actually get through his defenses. Whenever he electrifies the sword, it's going to be time to move to the left a bit to dodge his lightning attack, and that's really all there is to it. Just kind of work him over onto the right side and keep attacking with your flame whip, and he'll go down easily. Now, if you're having trouble, you could always use a key. Thing will give you invisible potions, and Mr. Thunderblade will be toast. Now I have the power. Once he's defeated, head on down the stairs, and we'll be in yet another sewer section. Of course, we need to use our bulb to turn on the lights. Down here, it looks like we've encountered some more of those green puddle enemies, so it could be a good time to try to farm them to get a few more keys. I think we're good on light bulbs, so we don't really need those right now. If you don't need more keys or light bulbs, you're better off fighting these guys using the whip. The whip will clear them and they won't split up into multiple enemies. There's another key, nice. And that's what we're really looking for here. Once you're satisfied with your number of keys, you can move on. Once again, this is a very straightforward section. I imagine the developers may have wanted to include some more complex mazes, but it may have been constrained by the size of the map. They needed to fit all of those Underworld sections into one area, and it might just not have worked with some more complicated mazes. We'll go right back into the underground after we exit, and we'll need to use yet another light bulb, and just make your way around. Once again, this is another straightforward area. There's some more of those green puddles to fight, and they're in a wide open space there, which is nice. There's a narrow corridor that we need to traverse down here, and then we'll just loop around. And oh man, got hit by that pink mouth enemy. We can switch to the whip now. The whip is very effective against those pink mouths. It can be difficult to hit the frogs when they're on the far left side. You may not be able to get them sometimes. Head on down around this corner, and there's the stairs that will lead us out. Try not to get hit again by those pink mouth enemies. And here we are, we found yet another building. Well, now is not a good time to be damaged. Inside this building is Mutilator Troy, and he is one of the most difficult bosses in the game. Use a key to get in. This time we're going to take the first left, and then we'll go around a couple corners, and we'll come to this hallway where we need to go all the way to the end and around the corner, and then we're going to take the second right, and then the second left. That will get us to the boss. Mutilator Troy is a tough one. We're invincible when we enter the room, so you want to get as many free hits as possible as you can with your whip. I usually can get 3 in safely, maybe 4. His shield is much more effective than Mr. Thunderblade's, and you can see that it is possible to attack him with your gun if you move him to the right and get ahead of him a bit. But that will take forever to kill this guy, so the missiles are your best bet. He only shoots his gun right after he jumps, so you want to move back and forth a bit and watch. As soon as he lands from his jump, that's when he's going to shoot, and that's when you need to move out of the way. In the meantime, you can press the A button to target his head, and then press the B button to launch the missiles. If you get low on health, make sure to use a potion to restore yourself. You don't want to die and have lost a lot of your missiles, because they're your best bet for beating this guy, and you won't get them to be refilled until you actually defeat the boss. It does take a lot of missiles to kill this guy. Sometimes you don't get a lot of hits with them, while other times it seems like you get a lot more. If this pattern is too difficult for you to do, or if you run out of missiles, you could always use your invisible potions and get up next to him and attack the gun on the right side with your whip as quickly as possible. That's another way you can deal with Mutilator Troy. He is by far the most difficult boss other than the final one. And if you try to beat him with just your gun, you will be here for a long time. I was able to do it, but I think it took over 10 minutes, and there's a very good chance that you'll mess up in that time and die. So I highly recommend using this missile method. Why are we fighting dinosaurs again? Are these the Dinosaucers? Was Sunsoft trying to tie in a second license to the game? I'm not sure, but I think that there was a time in the 80s and the early 90s when it seems like dinosaurs were in everything, so this may just be a byproduct of that. If you're having a lot of trouble with Mutilator Troy, you can always use a key. Just mash on the A button until you get to the right spot, and he will explode, and we'll be able to move on to the next part. And as usual, there's a stairway waiting for us right outside the building. We'll use a light bulb as we always do. This sewer area does have a slight branching path, but it's going to be right here at the very beginning, and I don't think you were going to be fooled by it. Yeah, were you afraid that you might go to the right there and end up at a dead end? Oh no. Oh no, we would have never figured that out. So just head to the left and go up around this loop. I'm a little bit concerned about how many keys we have, so we may want to farm some of the enemies here to try to get some more keys. We are a few short at this point for how many we need to finish the game. So we can try to attack those pink mouth enemies as we come around the bend. They're not as good as the green puddle enemies, but we may not see them again, so just try to kill as many enemies as we can, and hopefully one will drop a key, and oh, there's some green puddles, perfect. Alright, try to carefully fight them so that they don't immediately get destroyed. Grabbed a light bulb. Not really what we wanted. We can just get one key here. I think we'll be fine. Come on. Come on. And still multiple. There it is. Okay, we got the key. Alright. Maybe get an extra one just in case. See if there's another key. Okay, alright, yeah, we're in really good shape now. Just finish them off, see what other items we can grab. You probably should try to stock up on keys earlier. If you have enough in the early game, you won't have to worry about them later. And if you're not using the key glitch to defeat the bosses, you will not need as many keys, so you won't have to worry about collecting even close to as many of them if you're not using that key glitch. Alright, we got some frogs now. Take them out from the side. And this is the end of that tunnel. So we're up and through the stairs. Now this is an area where we can find another secret. The 4th health bar. Yeah, we've been looking for that 4th health bar. And it's not inside of a building this time. Well, I guess technically it is. We need to go inside of the Addams Family mansion. And the only way to get in there is to use this secret path over here on the left. You can actually walk through the bushes here. And then you can walk down this hidden path along the house. You will need a key to get in, but you won't have to go through a maze. You will immediately get the health power up. I'm not sure what's going on with this cinematic here. It looks like it should be a scene from the ending. I mean, Gomez is the one that was kidnapped by aliens. What's he doing in the picture? Maybe it's some kind of memory that Fester has? I don't know. In any case, you do get the 4th and final health bar for going down into the mansion, but that's not the only thing that we need to find out here. First, there's a hot dog stand up here, which is very convenient considering we had taken a damage and we just got a new heart container. And in this building, we will get the last sub-weapon. Mama will give us the nooses, and the nooses are awesome. You get 15 of them, and they will be replenished whenever you fight a boss. They're not useful against the bosses, but the nooses will clear the screen of any basic enemies. All of them. It will also clear the screen of enemy projectiles. So the nooses are one of the most useful items. Feel free to use them a whole lot. I'll show you what they do. Here's a good spot. Whenever you use one, you see that scene with Lurch. He says, "You rang." And when the screen comes back in, all the enemies are gone. It also restarts the music, which is kind of annoying, especially in the final zone. But I mean, that's what it is. So feel free to use the nooses as much as you want. You will get them replenished whenever we defeat the next boss. But we are going to be using them extensively in the final area, so definitely don't miss your opportunity to pick them up. You can see how much more effective the whip is against those enemies. And we want to make our way up and into the sewers. This is one of the most complex of all the sewer mazes that there are in the entire game. So watch out for these frog monsters and make your way up along the path. Luckily, most of the paths that you can take will lead you to the stairway at the end. There's only one big dead end. You can go either way here, but I recommend going down. If you go the other way, you'll just be taking a slightly longer path around. And you're going to make your way down here as well. We're trying to make our way to the bottom middle, but we need to go to the far left to get there. On the right is where that dead end is. Oh, there's another key. Might as well grab that, just to be extra safe. And we want to head to the left here. So that's the way we want to go whenever we're done farming these enemies for some items. It's always good to grab some extra items whenever you have an opportunity. You don't know when you might not see those green puddles again. They don't just spawn everywhere. They may not spawn for a while after this. So just head to the left here. You'll see that's where the other path comes out there on the left side. And we just want to go down. We can switch over to our whip so that we can deal with these monstrous mouths. and just cut on into the right and head down to the bottom, and that's it. This is the stairway. Take that up to the surface. This is just a short loop around, and whenever we enter the next sewer area, that's going to lead us to the final boss's lair. Well, the final boss before the UFO anyway. Once we defeat that final boss, we'll get the final clue and be able to move on to the final area. So we just gotta get through this one. Of course, just when it seemed like there might not be any more of those green puddles, more of them do show up, and we do need to wait for that gun icon to get out of the way. I don't think we really need to get any more items at this point, so let's just move on. And make your way all the way down to the bottom. This curves around, and it'll take us back up to the stairway, which will take us out to building number 6. So there it is, there's building number 6, and this is the lair of T-Rex. Of course, we'll need a key to get in, so use a key. And in this one, we want to head around the corner and then take a left at this intersection, and then go all the way down to the end and go right. Then we're going to head all the way to the end of that hall, head around the bend, go right, go all the way to the end of that hall, go around a couple bends, and up here we want to take the first left, and then we can just follow this hall all the way to the end, and that will take us to the boss. That's the most difficult of the office building mazes. T-Rex is actually a lot easier than Mutilator Troy. Of course, when we're invincible at the beginning, you want to attack his gun with your whip as many times as you can, but then switch over to the gun and go all the way to the bottom of the screen. Whenever T-Rex stops moving, his head goes up in the air and then he shoots a fireball. Once he shoots the fireball, he'll also shoot the spread shot right after that, so as long as you step out of the way, he's actually easy to avoid. So once he stops moving, just get in front of him and start shooting until he launches the fireball. It's very obvious when the fireball is coming. You'll see that head animation. And once you see the fireball coming, step out of the way. You just need to start moving and you'll easily avoid the spread shot. And you just keep doing this over and over again, and you will easily defeat T-Rex. Once T-Rex is defeated, we will get the final clue, and we'll be able to move on to the UFO. He does take a lot of hits though. I'm not sure why these bosses take so many hits. I'm assuming it's because the developers give you the invisibility potions so early in the game that they want to make sure that if you don't have a full stock of them and you're trying to use those to beat the bosses, that you may actually run out. That's the only thing I can think of, because this guy is a serious bullet sponge. I mean, I've been hitting him so many times. If you do have a turbo controller, that really helps against this guy. The turbo controller will cut down the time it takes to defeat him by a decent margin. But just keep working at it. As long as you don't get hit, there's no timer on this game, so you will prevail after a short while. Man, come on. How many shots does it take to defeat this guy? When he blows up too, he has a very phallic look to the head. I mean, tell the truth whenever you see it if you don't agree with me on this. Back and forth, avoid the shots, and yeah, see what I'm talking about with that head? Well, if you don't want to spend all that time fighting T-Rex, you certainly can use a key just like you could on any of the other bosses. Thing gives you the invisible potions, and the boss is destroyed. And that's it. We now have the final clue, and the final clue shows that Gomez is in a UFO. Wow, we couldn't have figured that out from the opening cinematic. It seems like we've known that the entire time. Why did we need the clues for that? That little red dot doesn't tell us anything. Yeah, that doesn't help. Sure, he's in a UFO. We knew that already. Oh well. Enter this sewer section and make your way to the final zone. This is it. This looks like some kind of weird grave site, and it looks like they got away with some Christian imagery there. That's kind of a no-no on Nintendo. The Nintendo censors definitely missed one there. Just head on down to that gravestone, and when you press the button on it, we'll be warped to the final zone. This is the UFO. The UFO is a gigantic maze, but don't be intimidated. Like most of the other mazes in this game, it's not very difficult to figure out, and we also have access to Fester's full arsenal of weapons. This spiky green monster behaves the same as the green puddles that we farmed for items earlier in the game, but at this point you'll only need to fight them if you need to power up your gun or your whip, because we don't need any keys or light bulbs or money moving forward. If you die in the UFO, you may hope that the game would just take you back to the beginning of the UFO, but no, it does not work like that. You go all the way back to the very beginning of the game, so if you ever get down to 1 health, you should use a potion without hesitation. These crab monsters will shoot bubbles at you, so you can strategically fight them through the wall with your flame whip. Try to lure this one up here and we'll hit it through the wall. Got him. And the flame whip, of course, is also very effective against those spiky green guys. They will not multiply when you whip them. Watch out for that gun debuff. The most important items in here are going to be the nooses, and whenever we see an alien that looks like that, we want to use a noose. Lurch will be summoned and will destroy that guy. You get 15 nooses, but if you die, the game is not going to refill your number of nooses, so we definitely need to be careful to not die. Keep those nooses ready to go, but pay attention to how many of them that you have. If at all possible, you may want to use it when there's a lot of enemies on the screen, and whenever we get close to the end, if you have a lot of nooses left, you might as well just start firing them off. I find that the little bouncing eyeballs are easier to defeat with the gun because you can shoot the gun more quickly than you can use the whip, and they can only be hit when they're on the ground. You won't be able to damage them when you're in the air, so the extra shots from the gun I think are a little bit more effective, but if you're better with the whip, then, go for it. We're going to try to walk around these ones so that we don't have to fight too many, and then just head up the path here. There are not too many branching paths in the UFO, so you shouldn't worry too much about getting lost. We'll use the whip to take out these spiky green monsters. Lurch will take care of that guy. And we'll try to use the gun to take out those eyeballs. At this juncture, we want to head to the right. And we're just going to follow the path around. This zone reminds me a lot of Blaster Master. It has a Blaster Master vibe to it. You rang? Oh yeah, we rang Lurch. Thanks, buddy. We'll use Lurch again here. We have 12 left, now 11. Just keep making your way around. Thanks, Lurch. Taking out these monsters, and we're about halfway through now, so we're doing pretty good on the amount of nooses that we have. There will probably be decently long stretches where we won't need to use any nooses, but we sure need to use a whole bunch here. Take out that eyeball, and just keep following the path. You can't really mess it up at this point. Down here, we're going to hit a largish open space. And in that area, we're going to need to head towards the bottom left. So whenever we get there, we're going to come out here on the left side, and we're going to head down. So we'll head up around this little bend. And you can see that's the starting point there below us. Just walk around these rocks. The whip is more effective against the crab. Should consider using Lurch against him though. So yeah, we're just going to follow this path downward. And that will take us into that large room, which does have a few branching paths off of it that are dead ends. So in here, it looks like this is the end, but no, you can walk on this surface. And you just want to head to the lower left. So that path above is a dead end, and there's also a path in the lower right, which is also a dead end. But this is the way to go. So as long as you don't mess that up, there aren't too many opportunities for you to make a mistake here in the UFO. We're going to head up and around here. You can see that there's a dead end. So you don't want to get stuck in that. So we are going to avoid it. Once we get to the top of this, we're going to go over to the right and then down. We'll use lurch on those guys, get them out of the way. But just go down here. But at the first juncture, you want to head to the right so that we don't get stuck in that dead end. And then make your way to the bottom. And that is the last place where you can actually mess up. Just head on down here. We'll use lurch to take this guy out, and we are very close to the end now. So if you have a decent number of nooses left, you can feel free to use them a little bit more liberally now. Try to shoot these guys as fast as I can. Just move on up through. Do not want to pick up that gun power up. We're too close to the end to mess up now. Just let it fade. Alright. Moving on up, and we're going to head over to the right. Not worried about that guy. I don't think he can get me here. Use the whip. Alright. You can go up or around there. It doesn't matter. Lurch will take those guys out, and we're just going to follow the path up here. We'll use lurch again since we're so close to the end. And we just need to head over here to the left. Lurch these guys. See you later. If anybody else appears on my screen, they're getting lurched. I think we're safe. This is it. Yes. This is the final boss. The alien leader. Make sure to equip your whip and your invisible potions. And you want to attack these two guns right in the middle so that you're hitting both at the same time. Just keep using your invisible potion so that you stay invincible the entire time. Eventually your whip will take out the guns, and once they are defeated, you want to hurry over to the right side, right about here. You see that that weapon can't hurt us from the boss, and now we can just easily defeat it by using our missiles. Press A to target the boss, make sure that it's targeting the weak point at the top, and then press B to fire the missiles. It's really that simple. I wish I could tell you there was a more fun way to defeat the boss, but this guy is nearly impossible to beat otherwise. You can beat him by trying to avoid the guns and just moving around in a circular pattern and shooting them with the gun, but there is a very good chance that you're going to mess that up, and this game has absolutely no mercy. If you die on this boss, you still go all the way back to the very beginning of the game, so now is not the time to mess around. Use your invisible potions, stay invincible, and once those two guns in the middle are defeated, get to the safe spot over here on the right side, and let the missiles do the work. Really advanced alien technology we have here that can't hit a guy that's like a few feet away from him. Who invented that thing? I can see why these guys are trying to conquer Earth. They probably want to borrow some of our technology. I mean, it certainly seems like we have way better weapon systems than these guys have. Just keep using the missiles. It does take a good number of missiles, so make sure that you save them for the boss. This is by far the best way to beat the game. If you can only imagine trying to fight this guy with your gun that does minimal damage as you run around the screen trying to avoid those energy balls that it's shooting at you. That would just be insane. I assume that the developers knew that you would need to have a full arsenal to beat this final boss, and that's why they gave it so many hit points, so that you probably would run out of invisible potions if you just had those. You need to give it the 1-2 punch of the invisible potions to defeat the turrets on the front, and of course you need the fully leveled up flame whip as well. And then you need the missiles, so this is a lot like a test. Did you collect all of the items? If you did, you can win. Now I know you were expecting this. What if we use a key on the final boss? Well, there's a way you can do it that you'll win, but you can freeze the game up. And that's the last thing you want to do on the final boss. So just use the other strategy and don't try to defeat him using the key glitch. The other strategy is super easy to use. We've done it. We've beaten Fester's quest. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Well, this is pretty much it. This scene of everyone fist pumping around the family is essentially the only ending we get. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat Fester's Quest, one of the self-proclaimed toughest games on the NES. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Because there will always be more famous fictional families to rescue, and that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.